kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
Very careful the way you address me, given that I literally have your life in my palm.
People lose hands and palms every day.
Be careful you don't get yourself in that list.
People. Why can't you give Solomon a chance to speak out? You talk like angry monkeys. And you, when are you ever going to learn to listen?
Okay. If you know you took my juice, it is not that expensive. It is only 10 bob.
Why is this Angela face laughing?
Don't mind her, tell us the good news, Murume, You know some of us need something to cheer us up.
Mizimu imesema, atakayekuwa kiongozi ni yule pete itamchagua.
Bahari imechafuka. Mrithi wangu ni yule atakayeniletea vuo la kuoga.
Sasa na hili vuo, wachana nalo, wakati wake umepita.
Pete hii ni ishara ya utawala.
Huu uongozi tusimwachie Jasiri.
Kwa nini uongozi usimwendee Jasiri? Na wauliza nyinyi, Jasiri ana nini?
Kiva, hakuna atakayekusumbua.
For 60 years, the African Development Bank Group has played an integral part in Africa's socio-economic transformation. From the 27th to the 31st of May 2024, the African Development Bank Group will host its 2024 annual meetings at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi, Kenya. This year's theme will be Africa's Transformation, the African Development Bank Group and Reform of the Global Financial Architecture. The high-level meetings will be hosted by the President of Kenya, His Excellency Honorable Dr. William Ruto, and the President of the African Development Bank Group, Akinwumi Adesina, and will convene African leaders, development partners, private sector actors, civil society organizations, youth, among other stakeholders. This event will be live on KBC Channel 1.
Nilianza kuendesha boda miaka michache iliyopita. Wakati huo nilifikiria siwezi kushindwa. Lakini siku moja nilikuwa hospitalini kwa miezi 3. Kosa moja karibu liondoe kila kitu. Mwaka moja baada ya kutoka hospitalini, nilihudhuria mafunzo ya jinsi ya kuendesha boda kwa usalama. Siku hizi niko makini zaidi barabarani. Wateja wangu wanaenjoy. Kumbuka, usalama kwanza.
Boda ni life, lakini life si kitu bila usalama. Zingatia kanuni za trafiki. Hakikisha unavaa helmet na reflector jacket wakati wote.
Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
From wherever you're watching us in Kenya, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and a warm welcome to Prime Edition, coming to you from Broadcasting House in Nairobi. Tonight, we have lined up lots of stories on the local scene and the business segment, and later on at the tail end in the world of sports. My name is Mboya, and this live broadcast begins right now. Embu Muguka farmers and traders secure a court order suspending the ban on Muguka at the coast as President Ruto intervenes. Manufacturers and accountants oppose proposed tax on bread, industrial inputs and motor vehicles, calling for the amendment of the Finance Bill 2024. Clinicians now call for joint negotiations with both the national and county governments as their strike approaches 2 months. Thank you indeed for joining us. Brian Muraro is in charge of our sign language docket. Our socials, if you want to communicate to us, is at KBC Channel 1 on all our social media platforms. Let's start this live broadcast with an update on that Finance Bill 2024. It has elicited a lot of reactions, and Parliament is tonight being urged to strike out the proposed increase of taxes on bread, industrial inputs, and the 2.5% annual tax on motor vehicles. Speaking at a public hearing forum on the Finance Bill 2024, the Kenya Association of Manufacturers and Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya said that the passage of the bill, as it is, will lead to serious economic repercussions in the months to come. Giverson Maina opens our coverage with that story on the Finance Bill.
Appearing before the Finance and Planning Committee of the National Assembly during day one of the public participation of the Finance Bill 2024, stakeholders opposed the proposed introduction of 25% excess duty on vegetable oils and other food commodities, saying Kenyans are still facing the high cost of living.
Parliament should consider the morality of taxing food, and especially food, very heavily in this country. So it's not just that we are arguing for bread. I think Parliament should be especially cautious in a country where 30% of children under the age of 5 have shown persistent lack of food, which has led them to be stunted.
On the proposed increment of excess duty on telephone and internet data services from 15% to 20%, accounting professionals said this would slow the creation of digital jobs and e-commerce.
We feel that raising the excise tax to 20% will discourage use of online services and digital platforms.
On the controversial proposal to introduce a 2.5% motor vehicle tax, stakeholders declared motorists were already paying other vehicle-related taxes, including vehicle import taxes, which are almost 50% of the car's value.
Our thinking is that this tax should not exist, but if you decide to go about it, we think 2.5% of the value of an asset every year is too high. So what you should do perhaps is to consider it as a lump sum tax, which is to establish a simple amount. It is simple to administer.
Manufacturers through the Kenya Association of Manufacturers discouraged the introduction of new taxes on raw materials, saying if the new taxes are approved, some industry will be forced to shut down.
60 sack manufacturers in Kenya, 3 of them have gone down. East African Packaging was the latest to go down a month ago. We have 3 remaining. With this bill, the way it was crafted, these 3 will be wiped out. So it will become a net importer.
KRA wants to push the target Treasury is pushing them to push the target. So by the time now the bill is coming to us, is an extrapolation of if you change this percentage here, how much does that change?
Due to unsustainable and too high cost of production. Give us Minor Prime Edition.
An update now on that strike by clinicians. The Kenya Union of Clinical Officers is demanding a sit-down with both arms of government to resolve an ongoing strike. The clinicians are demanding a review of salaries for universal healthcare coverage, UHC, clinicians' risk allowance, and the absorption of a section of their lot of permanent basis. The union's national chairperson, Peterson Washira, while leading protests along Coast Chapter members in the coastal city of Mombasa, called on the Council of Governors to negotiate an amicable return to work formula.
For 58 days, clinical officers have stayed away from their workstations, demanding that the government heed their irreducible minimums. Out of 10 areas of concern, the clinicians say 3 are yet to be addressed, and there seems to be no progress.
We only require 3.5 billion for the UHC staff. And the last thing is about the interns. Their salary was reduced by more than 50%. There is a structure that was provided by the Public Service Commission. It must be adhered to.
On Tuesday morning, Coast Chapter officers drawn from Mombasa, Kilifi and Kwale marched from the Coast General Hospital to protest the issuance of show cause letters to the Mombasa cadre.
Tumesajiliwa na kwa hivyo tuko na haki ya kwenda mgomo na kupigania haki zetu.
As far as Kilifi is concerned, we have had negotiations with the employer, the county government, but still they are non-committal.
Tutaenda kufile contempt of court orders na tutafile kwa yule mtu ambaye ameandika hiyo barua.
Led by the Kenya Union of Clinical Officers National Chairperson Peterson Washira, the professionals called on the county boss to heed, listen and act and take the message to the Council of Governors.
We are open to consultations. We are opening to listen to the grievances of all our workers, and we'll find a solution together.
Budgetary allocation is nothing that is too big for the government to handle. We only require around 900 million, not even a billion per year.
Washira further urged Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumisha to negotiate a reasonable return to work formula that will end the stalemate.
CS Nakumisha is the one who is supposed to bring the Council of Governors together. They go before the Treasury and they secure that budget to pay that money. And she has not sat with us for the 58 days we have been on strike.
Juni Karisambele from Mombasa County.
From Mombasa now we come back to Nairobi, where President William Ruto is now saying that the new university funding model is working as expected. Speaking after meeting vice-chancellors from the country's public universities and constituent colleges at State House Nairobi, the president said that in the next 3 years, public universities will no longer grapple with financial problems. Our team was there and put this story together.
Our Redeemer and our Sustainer, it is to you that we come this morning.
The Tuesday morning meeting saw various university vice-chancellors and principals of constituent colleges congregate at State House, Nairobi. The agenda was to discuss the status of higher education driven by the new financing model. The head of state reiterated his administration's commitment to increase budgetary support to the institutions. The university dons confirming that the new model is working, and President William Ruto committed that in 3 years, the model will sort out the financial challenges facing universities. The president stating that under the model, learners from vulnerable and extremely needy families have equal opportunities accessing university education. Needy students will receive government scholarships of up to 53% and loans of up to 40%, while parents will only pay 7% of the total cost of the university education. Those joining TVET institutions will receive government scholarships of up to 50% and 30% in loans. Their households will pay 20% of the cost. The president later held talks with the Minister for State of the United Kingdom for Development and Africa, Andrew Michel, to develop new partnership to address emerging challenges as both countries explore new opportunities. Abdiaziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
Meanwhile, President William Ruto has engaged the leaders of Mombasa, Kilifi and Taita Taveta on their banning of the sale of muguka in their counties. The leaders have agreed to participate in a stakeholder meeting convened by the Agriculture Ministry to address the matter. Muguka farmers and traders in Embu have, however, secured a High Court suspension on the ban.
The head of state, through his ex-account, said he had engaged coastal governors Abdul Swamad Sharif, Gideon Mungaro and Andrew Mudimi regarding their concerns on the sale of muguka that resulted in the ban on the sale of crop in Mombasa, Kilifi and Taita Taveta counties. Subsequently, the county bosses have agreed to participate in a meeting of all stakeholders to be convened by the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock this week, as was suggested by Embu County leaders on Monday. A meeting of the political leaders of the affected counties will be convened next week. Meanwhile, Embu High Court Judge Lucy Njuguna has temporarily suspended the ban affected by the coastal counties. The orders are to last till 8th July when the application by muguka farmers and traders in Embu will be heard and determined.
Tuna sisi tupeleke njia yetu ya kusema ni njia ya kuajiri vijana wetu na pia ni njia ya kutafuta chakula yetu ya kila siku, na kuna watu wengi wameajiriwa na hii muguka.
The move by the coastal counties had sparked protests in Embu County, with leaders joining their residents in opposing the move. They welcome the suspension as reprieve, saying the ban will render many jobless. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
Into the corridors of justice now. The widow of the late former Juja legislator George Thuo has urged the court to consider that her husband did not die of natural causes when sentencing the 6 convicts found guilty of his murder. The defense counsels had pleaded with the court to consider treating their clients as victims of circumstances. Trial Judge Roslyn Korir has set the 21st of June as the date when she will pronounce her ruling of the number of years the convicts will serve behind bars.
Judy Thuo wants the killers of her husband to pay for their actions.
For 10 years I have come to this court, my brothers and sisters, so that we can have closure. We have remained for 7.5 years, and really, we have not moved from the grave. And that is not right.
She has asked the court to take into consideration the circumstances under which the former Juja lawmaker lost his life when it finally sentenced the 6 convicts on 21st June this year. The defense has, however, pleaded for leniency, with the lead counsel, Dr. John Kaminwa, arguing that the 6 were victims of circumstance.
Whatever role Paul Wanaina played technically in the death of his friend Honorable Thuo must have been very minimal.
He is simply a victim of geography and time. That at some point in time, he sat on a particular table. That's all that puts him in the circumstances he finds himself today.
Justice Koril on April convicted club owner Paul Wainaina Boyo, Thuo's aide Christopher Lumbasio Andika, Andrew Karanja Wainaina, Samuel Kuriangugi, Esther Ndinda Mulinge, and a waiter Ruth Watahi Irungu over the death that took place at Pokis Club in Thika over a decade ago. Thuo was found dead, and upon medical examination was found to have taken a poisonous drink which had been put into his beer. And a Kiambu law court has given the go-ahead a prayer by a homicide DCI officer to detain a police officer for 14 days at the Kiambu police station pending investigations over the murder of a U.S. embassy staff shot dead in the wee hours last Sunday outside a Kiambu club.
And it is only prudent that he be detained for that time, when we are very sure we shall be coming back with a very conclusive report.
Through an affidavit made by CPA Ruben Mwaniki from the DC headquarters before Kiambu Magistrate Wanjiru Ng'ang'a, he sought to be given orders to detain the officer. Dennis Mwai Irungu is the prime suspect in the murder of Anthony Njomo Kiono. Now, deceased noting he needed time to gather more evidence and witnesses to be included in the case.
A life was lost. It is for these reasons and in the interest of justice, I am satisfied that the application dated the 28th May 2024 has merit and is therefore allowed as prayed.
Ruth Wamboi for Prime Edition.
Hundreds of teachers drawn from various junior secondary schools in Kibwezi, Makueni County staged peaceful demonstrations in Kibwezi townships, mounting pressure on government to confirm them into permanent and pensionable terms. Elsewhere, the junior secondary school intern teachers in Kilifi and their Kajiado counterparts also took to the streets, demanding a lasting solution to their predicaments. Timothy Kipnusu reports.
The junior secondary school intern teachers still have their backs turned on classrooms, united in the pursuit of better working conditions and agreeable terms of service. From Kibwezi to Kajiado, the tutors on Tuesday marched and maintained that they were simply asking for what was theirs.
Again, to Teachers Service Commission, aturudi shule mpaka tupate P&P letters. We are out in the streets because we are underpaid and demotivated teachers.
Mnataka nini? Tunataka pesa. From Kibwezi to Kajiado, the tutors on Tuesday marched and maintained that they were simply asking for what was theirs.
We have suffered enough, and enough is enough. Now we need confirmation and compensation.
The teachers are accusing the government of walking back on the promise to employ them permanently. The teachers want an improvement on the 17,000 shillings paid to them every month.
We are not going back to school. We are obeying the court ruling, and we will stick on the streets until TSC confirms us or does any of the three as they were directed by the court. Mogul's power!
The teachers argued that it was not the time for the Teacher Service Commission to write show cause letters. They are demanding that TSC should instead obey the courts to end the suffering of all junior secondary school learners.
Serikali itenge katika bajeti yake ya mwaka 2024 mwaka 2025 ambayo kwamba iko karibu kusoma mwezi wa 6. Watenge pesa au hela ambazo zitawezesha kuajiri walimu 47,000.
All those show cause while letters that have been issued by TSC to these intern teachers must be withdrawn. And we are saying today that those letters are null and void.
Timothy Kipnusu for Prime Edition.
That story brings us to our first break here on Prime Edition. And when we come back after a short break, we're going to tell you who the new speaker in the Migori County Assembly is. So don't go away.
Katiba mseme no. Katiba no. Katiba no. Basi wananchi wa wote mimi mgeni hapa, nimekuwa nikita hapa mara kwa mara mbele ya wote baada ya mimi kustaafu. Nilitaka kuwatembelea na kuwatoleni shukurani kwa kuwa pamoja kwa ujenzi wa sehemu hii. Tunajua kwamba hoteli ni waka kama headquarters ya wote hapa.
With With heavy rainfall sweeping across the nation, the Ministry of Health, county governments and partners are urging you to take critical precautions. Flooded rivers, landslides and the risk of water-related diseases like cholera, typhoid, malaria and dengue fever are on the rise. Here's what you need to do. 1. If you're in flatlands or landslide-prone areas, move to safer grounds immediately. 2. Maintain personal hygiene, treat water, wash hands, and use latrines properly. 3. Protect against mosquito bites with insecticide-treated nets. 4. Seek immediate medical attention for any health concerns. And 5. Call emergency helplines 719 or 0729 471414 or 0732 353535. Remember, safety comes first. Respiratory and waterborne illnesses are increasing due to the cold weather and flooding. Use treated water and seek medical help promptly if needed. Despite the challenges, healthcare services, including immunizations and chronic disease management, remain available. Be vigilant about food safety to avoid illnesses like cholera and typhoid. Properly handle and store food and seek help if necessary. Manage waste responsibly to prevent environmental harm. Report any issues to local authorities promptly. For more information and support, dial *719#. Stay informed, stay safe. Together we can weather this storm. This message has been brought to you by the Ministry of Health, UNICEF and other partners.
For 60 years, the African Development Bank Group has played an integral part in Africa's socio-economic transformation. From the 27th to the 31st of May 2024, the African Development Bank Group will host its 2024 annual meetings at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi, Kenya. This year's theme will be Africa's Transformation, the African Development Bank Group and Reform of the Global Financial Architecture. The high-level meetings will be hosted by the President of Kenya, His Excellency Honorable Dr. William Ruto, and the President of the African Development Bank Group, Akinwumi Adesina, and will convene African leaders, development partners, private sector actors, civil society organizations, youth, among other stakeholders. This event will be live on KBC Channel 1.
Asanteni sana kwa kuwezesha Loto Moto kuwafikia wengi wasiojiweza kupitia *570#. Hapo umewafuta wengi machozi, umewaelimisha, umewapa makao, umewapa lishe na umewapa matibabu kwa namna tofauti. Asanteni.
Asanteni. Asanteni sana.
Na kwako wewe mchezaji wa Loto Moto, unajipa fursa ya kujishindia Probox nayo. Na kama Probox haikufai na umejishindia, tunakupa taslim 750,000 Kenyan shillings na mshindi namtangaza 30th of June. Na mwezi wa July 28th namtangaza mshindi wa Demio nayo. Na kama utaki na umeshinda, wacha gari. Chukua chapa 750,000 Kenyan shillings kwenye *570#. Wewe si mshindi tu, wewe ni tegemeo kubwa. Tusaidie na tushinde!
Nilianza kuendesha boda miaka michache iliyopita. Wakati huo nilifikiria siwezi kushindwa, lakini siku moja nilikuwa hospitalini kwa miezi 3. Kwa saa moja karibu liondoe kila kitu. Mwaka moja baada ya kutoka hospitalini, nilihudhuria mafunzo ya jinsi ya kuendesha boda kwa usalama. Siku hizi niko makini zaidi barabarani. Wateja wangu wanaenjoy. Kumbuka, usalama kwanza.
Boda ni life, lakini life si kitu bila usalama. Zingatia kanuni za trafiki. Hakikisha unavaa helmet na reflector jacket wakati wote.
Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
Language is Brian Muraru, our socials at KBC Channel 1. We're glad you're still with us. Now, a consortium of local and regional civil societies are demanding that the African Development Bank increase funding for energy projects in African countries. The organization, under the Civil Society Working Group on the bank, also want governments to formulate plans to cushion citizens from bearing the responsibility of paying huge amounts of money accumulated as debt arising from renewable energy project financing.
Despite efforts to boost the use of energy that does not pollute the atmosphere on the continent, a group of civil society organizations on Tuesday called for more financing towards the existing clean energy projects. According to the Civil Society Working Group on the Africa Development Bank, more than 630 million people across Africa do not enjoy universal access to clean cooking. It is estimated that globally, around 2.3 billion people cook using solid biomass fuels such as wood, charcoal and kerosene.
We want the bank to increase financing to clean cooking and decentralized renewable energy systems. Energy that is accessible to the people who are not yet connected to the grid.
We also need to see the bank investing more in technical assistance that will push, those in frontier counties to have energy access.
The 45 CSOs and grassroots organizations from Africa and beyond who met in Nairobi on Tuesday urged the Africa Development Bank to embrace clean energy transition and accountability as critical factors in the global financing architecture reform.
We ensure the families that work in, they have clean cooking facilities that can enable them even not only to enjoy the safety and clean energy or clean air in the house, but also to promote climate change.
They at the same time called for an integrated safeguard systems implementation to ensure clean energy financing does not add to citizens' woes as a result of debt accrued from financing the initiatives.
We believe that working in partnership with the bank and providing a space for engagement for the civil society is important if the bank is going to achieve its mandate, but also for us as Christian Aid because we are committed to justice.
While we acknowledge the bank's effort in organizing separate continental and regional CSO forums, the nature of these forums often resembles partnership meetings rather than platforms for meaningful and critical dialogue.
For Prime Edition, I'm Joseph Wahungu.
The Narok County government now wants tourist facilities operating within the Masai Mara Game Reserves to subscribe to a standardized lease agreement for payment of royalties. Narok Governor Patrick Olentutu, who appeared before the Senate Trade and Tourism Committee, said that the agreement sets out obligations that proprietors of tourist facilities will have towards the county government as well as local communities. The senators are, however, concerned that only 6 out of 49 tourist facilities have subscribed to the standardized leases.
This issue of the leases, I want to encourage the county government to immediately move fast so that everything is standardized. But then the CC Finance has just brought in another issue which would be of concern to me and legal. I don't know how you're going to deal with this matter, where you say there are existing lease agreements between Narok County Council and the beneficiaries. How are you able to standardize that? Because you see, it's a negotiation process. You in the management plan. And there is, what the senator is saying is true, that everybody was doing their own things. But right now, the reason why you see now the county government has put measures so that by 1st of July, everybody now will be standardized. That's why the right thing, you're not doing the right thing. So I want to give comfort to my senator that after 1st of July, you will not hear about this monkey business in Mara. We are going to put things in the right way, and everything will work the way we want it, and the county government will be able to benefit.
You remember I told you that the Migori County Assembly held elections on the new speaker. These are the results. Christopher Rusana, we can report tonight authoritatively, is now the new speaker of the Migori County Assembly. The former Water CEC won the seat with 45 votes against his closest challenger, Francis Ndar, who got 13 votes. Embattled former Speaker Owino Likowa was impeached last month over alleged mismanagement of assembly affairs.
Tension was high in Migori County Assembly during the election of the new speaker after MCS clashed over the voting process. When that row was resolved, the 59 ward representatives had a choice of 12 candidates. Christopher Odhiambo Rusana, the immediate former Water CEC, claimed the seat with 45 votes. His closest challenger, Francis Ndar, got 12 votes. Alan Chacha was third with a single vote, while the other 9 contenders didn't receive a single vote. Rusana vowed to lead the assembly without discrimination.
I want to say that everybody voted me, and I'm going to work with all the members of the House for the better and for development of Migori County Assembly. I also want to say, for records, that this House has a responsibility to facilitate the running of the Migori County Executive. We shall do that.
I'm expecting the new speaker will therefore ensure our staffs, who are actually the backbone of us honorary members, are well facilitated in terms of equipment, and we, as honorary members, we expect the speaker to bring unity and harmony.
The Assembly had published a notice in the dailies on May 15th, where it declared the speaker's seat vacant after impeaching Speaker Owino Likowa. Rusana now holds the reins as the 4th speaker in Migori County Assembly since the advent of devolution.
Well, we wish Christopher Rusana good luck as he takes up his new role as the new speaker of Migori County Assembly. Police in Kagumo, Kirinyaga County are investigating a fire incident that claimed the lives of 2 children in a residential plot near Kagumo Trading Center in Kirinyaga Central Constituency. And elsewhere, scrap metal dealers in Kakamega and its environs have complained of being harassed by police officers collaborating with officials of the county's water supply company, Kakamega Water and Sewerage Company, KAWASCO. For this and more, here is our county news wrap.
According to eyewitnesses, neighbors and firefighters from the county government of Kirinyaga had difficulty putting out the fire, which destroyed over 20 houses and consumed 2 lives.
Labda kunaonekana kama ni kando, sababu token yake anasema ilikuwa imepima, ndio ikasababisha hiyo nyumba zingine zote.
Elsewhere, scrap metal dealers in Kakamega and its environs have complained of being harassed by police officers collaborating with officials of the county's water supply company, KAWASCO.
Sisi sio wezi hata kidogo. Sisi ni wafanyabiashara kama wengine, na kazi hii tunafanya kwa njia ile safi sana.
And residents of Nyahururu town want the area leaders to push for the repair of roads in the region.
Maji inapita juu mpaka hata sisi tuko na wasiwasi tunashindwa. Hii ni barabara ama ni mto? Ni kama tunaweza bebwa na maji siku moja pande hii.
Meanwhile, the Principal Secretary for Devolution, Terry Mbaika, and Kaiti constituency member of National Assembly, Joshua Kimilu, have clashed over the location of markets in the constituency. In Nakuru County, the Ogiek indigenous community is now calling upon the government and the National Land Commission to expedite their compensation and resettlement program within the Mau Forest.
The Minister of Environment has a role to be able to decassate or give Ogiek their land. Ministry of Land to be able to document it and make it clear the ancestral land of the Ogiek community.
Finally, various stakeholders say that customer uptake of asset financing in the country has recently improved due to flexible mode of loan repayment amid business flow instability.
And for us, it is quite strategic and in line with our strategic objectives of growing the business segments, especially the SME.
This was said by various speakers during the signing of Memorandum of Understanding between SBM Bank and Mobiki Kenya. Kasi Chanamasha, Prime Edition.
Well, that story brings us to our second break. We are coming back with a look at the day's business, and Bernardo Coach Okumo will also be bringing us the day's sports. But first things first, take a break, and coming up next. Small and medium enterprises in Africa require 2.7 trillion shillings in capital funding to remain afloat. And the Kenya under-18 boys and girls soccer teams back in the country after an outstanding performance in China.
Mizimu imesema atakayekuwa kiongozi ni yule pete itamchagua.
Bahari imechafuka. Mrithi wangu ni yule atakayeniletea vuo la kuoga.
Sasa na hili vuo wachana nalo, wakati wake umepita.
Pete hii ni ishara ya utawala.
Huu uongozi tusimwachie Jasiri.
Kwa nini uongozi usimwende Jasiri? Na wauliza nyinyi, Jasiri ana nini?
Kiva, hakuna atakayekusumbua.
Welcome to the day's business. Small and medium enterprises in Africa requires 2.7 trillion shillings in capital funding to remain afloat. The Association of African Development Finance Institutions President Thabo Tamanane says there is need for policy formulation to de-risk the SME sector to attract more private equity. Small businesses are the backbone of many economies in Africa, providing employment to millions on the continent of Africa.
Onward Lending and state-owned startup incubation agencies say they need more than 15 billion shillings this year to support and bankroll small and medium enterprises in the country. The Kenya Development Corporation, Agriculture Finance Corporation, and the Kenya Industrial Estates say there is need for more funding to capitalize startups that have been affected by COVID-19 and climate change.
Trying to do is also move away from straining government in terms of the fiscal budget. We know the fiscal space is very small. So we've been trying to do our resource mobilization outside allocation of budget.
The government has already earmarked 500 million shillings towards AFC, and we anticipate to be able to access that before the end of this financial year. And next financial year, we are looking at 1 billion shillings. All this money is coming as part of the 10 billion shillings which was promised by His Excellency the President.
The Association of Africa Development Finance Institutions say the continent needs 2.7 trillion shillings for onward lending to startups. The association is urging African governments to consider policy review to de-risk the SME sector and attract more private equity.
We need to be able to have one message around our views of how we look at the private sector, because private sector are partners that are not necessarily competitors in this particular space. And we must accept that as government-owned entities, we cannot be able to fill the gap alone.
Lenders and underwriters have been encouraged to come up with financial and insurance packages to assist in lending and insulate startups against business risks.
Our mission as the association is to basically say to the private sector, you are our partners, come here. We will, as a DFIs, de-risk investments, and you can actually co-fund those particular investments.
Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Limited access to climate financing, regulatory barriers, and lack of political will is hindering small business from tapping finances for green initiatives. ABSA Group Chief Financial Officer Yusuf Omari says that fostering partnerships between global finance players and intermediaries who understand the African business landscape is key in unlocking financing to Africa.
Climate financing is designed to help countries such as Kenya mitigate and adapt to the effect of climate change. Accessibility of these funds, however, remain a challenge as Africa receives $30 billion per year for climate adaptation, which is less than 10%, while it needs our $277 billion per year, leaving a huge financing gap.
The continent is getting the biggest hit on the bit of climate financing, and the hit is coming because of lack of finances.
Speaking on the sidelines of the 2024 annual meeting of the African Development Bank Group, Absa Group CFO Yusuf Omari says addressing climate change in Africa will require a multifaceted approach to ensure no one is left behind in the shift to a low-carbon economy.
We know in terms of, right from the government, taking a lead on this, but the bit that is missing at this point in time is policy frameworks. We've given examples on, for example, tax incentives that will be able to encourage investment in, in this kind of projects.
There's need for us to come together and design climate projects that are then able to address the needs and priorities of the communities that we are intending to address their challenges.
Specific barriers related to regulatory frameworks, political instability and market conditions need to also be addressed. Absa plans to double its climate financing to 120 billion shillings by 2025, saying they have already deployed 60 billion shillings to help accelerate climate transition, even as the bank ventures into the credit carbon market.
Talk about carbon market, you talk about green manufacturing, green infrastructure, etc. I think some of these are very attractive, and we should be able to see the benefits of those.
Banks were also urged to advance cross-border banking and financial payment solutions that will fuel Africa's transformation.
Tanzania, whether in Kenya, whether in DRC, whether in Rwanda or Burundi, MSME is the cornerstone of the economy.
Determining financing needs in developing economies is critical if we are to identify the financing gaps and opportunities in order to guide stakeholders, access, mobilize and allocate climate finance resources. Wairi Mujenga for Prime Edition.
Has secured 27 billion shillings from the European Union, French Development Agency, and the European Investment Bank to connect 280,000 households to electricity under the last mile connectivity. President William Ruto says that the funds will strengthen the government's ambitious plan of achieving universal access to electricity by the year 2030. President Ruto said that the power lines erected under the program will also transmit fiber optic cables, ensuring universal internet access.
In the beginning, this vision was not just seen as bold and ambitious. It was also considered to be too audacious to be possible.
The cost of entry to the power system in Kenya was so prohibitive that nobody was able to get into the power system because they needed to have a one-off connection fee of 75,000. And it was just impossible to move 20,000 customers to the grid.
And that is when we decided to invert the payments. We said, let us connect everybody who is near a grid. Let us connect everybody who is near a transformer. And then let us amortize the payment we would have wanted from them over 3 to 5 years. And it has become magic. We have moved from 2.3 million people connected in 2013 to now 9.6 million people connected in 2024.
By supporting the implementation of this project, AFD, alongside his partners like EIB, are very happy to contribute to the development of the Kenya's infrastructure required to foster economic growth and contribute positively to the sustainable development goals by bridging the gap and reducing disparities between rural and urban areas.
By extending electricity grid to rural and underserved areas, the Last Mile Connectivity Project is not only effectively bridging the development gap between urban and rural communities, but it has also effectively raised the overall rate of national productivity across sectors by facilitating the uptake of efficient technologies.
To achieve the goal of universal and sustainable electricity access, the necessary investments are very high and not always commercially attractive for the private sector. This is why the European Union is supporting this connectivity program with a major grant of 4.3 billion Kenyan shillings, which is 30 million euros, that will help reduce the investment costs and make the project sustainable.
As part of our bottom-up economic transformation program, that you don't have to live in a posh estate to have electricity. Electricity must be an equalizer that equalizes all Kenyans, irrespective of their social status, irrespective of their financial capacity, and that is what this program is going to do. The last mile connectivity project is also news to the hustler economy, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, which is the engine of our economy, benefits immensely from reliable power, enabling them to operate efficiently and by expanding their reach, capability, and output.
The use of technology in the tourism industry was the main focus of the 6th African Tourism Youth Innovation Summit. Delegates at the Windhoek Summit in Namibia said that cooperation among African countries is key to unlocking the immense tourism potential, as Irene Muchuma-Odim reports.
Landscapes make it a very...
The 6th Africa Youth in Tourism Innovation Summit and Challenge kicked off in Namibia Tuesday, bringing together delegates from 40 countries. The delegates called on governments in Africa to simplify visa application procedures and optimize payment services, as well as enhance air connections between countries.
Connectivity, which are huge issues for growth. From an entrepreneurship perspective, there's a lot of red tape, getting financing and things like that, and there's also an educational cap.
The meeting is expected to come up with ways the youth can tap tourism opportunities in Africa.
The whole idea was, how do we bring the youth together in terms of entrepreneurship, innovation.
The Kenyan delegation at the summit highlighted how the youth could package the untold stories about the rich heritage in Africa to the global audience to attract tourists to the continent.
Tutakuwa tunaweza leta wageni katika nchi yetu na tutakuwa tunaweza kuwa na more solutions on how to handle the clients.
Key takeaways that we would like to consider here will be, one, the launch of the Africa Tourism Innovation Hub, which basically will be a platform for young people to interact, to present their projects, workshop their project, clean them up to the level that they become bankable or they are able to find partners.
With emerging opportunities in artificial intelligence, AI, at least more than 40 countries are in Namibia to brainstorm on ways to maximize the opportunities in the tourism world in line with the digital space, and also create job opportunities as well as market the region not only in Africa but beyond. Irene Muchuma-Odim, Channel 1 in Windhoek, Namibia.
National Treasury Principal Secretary Dr. Chris Kiptoo says there is need to broaden the tax base to boost revenue collection for funding government expenditure. Dr. Kiptoo says that new strategies have been proposed to seal revenue leakages as well as to eliminate duplication of spending. However, members of the National Assembly Budget and Appropriations Committee called on the National Treasury to ensure that spending is prioritized on projects and that services that benefit more Kenyans are looked at.
Probably you'll give us a brief on how the proposed finance bill as it is will help promote investment. When you are reclassifying zero-rated supplies to exempt, meaning it attracts input taxes and that will be offloaded onto the consumer.
Try to reduce the taxation on the fuel, and then you are now achieving it by increasing 2.5, hoping that in the insurance sector you will now collect more.
If we are getting 100 shillings, 35 shillings is going to pay interest payments. And if we include together with debt, we are talking about between 60 and 70%. So where we have reached, we clearly cannot continue financing the budget through deficit. We need to live within our means, and this is what we are demonstrating in this fiscal year that we have gone, fiscal year 24-25. You might not be also realistic. Two.
And that's the day's business.
Sports News is brought to you by Mozart Bet.
Glad that you're still watching Channel 1 Prime Edition. Time to get sporty with me, Bernard Okumu. The Kenya under-18 boys and girls soccer teams are back in the country after an outstanding performance in the International Schools Federation Football World Cup in Dalian City, China, which they termed as an eye-opening experience that will be helpful to them as they build their football careers. Kenya had a tournament to remember, the International Schools Federation Football World Cup, where the girls soccer team finished first runners-up after losing 5-4 in penalties to host China. The team's highlight of the tournament came when they beat Brazil 3-1 in the semi-final stage, a win that head coach Fred Serenge says will live to inspire the squad.
Personally, I'm a lover and I'm a fan of Brazil. But on that day, I was the opponent of Brazil. And I want to say, it turned tables, it was miraculous. It was in style. We didn't just beat them, we thrashed them.
Nimekuwa top scorer, nimefurahia, nimeachieve vitu mingi, nimefurahia. Ilikuwa game tough, tulikutana na Brazil, tulikutana na Brazil knockout. Tulikuwa tumejua ni timu ngumu lakini tulipambana.
Kila timu ilijipanga, watu walikuwa ready, hata sisi pia tulikuwa ready. Tulijua tutakuwa washindi but hatukumanage. Penalty si ya mtu. Hii inakuanga luck, but luck haikuwa kwetu. Mimi nimefurahia sana kwa sababu tuko na experience sana.
The boys team, on the other hand, finished in 15th position overall. They finished second in Group F that comprised Uganda, Benin and Chinese Taipei, a result that relegated them to classification matches where they beat Aspire from Qatar and Czechia 4-0 and 6-1 respectively to finish the competition in 15th place out of 35 teams.
We expected more from the tournament, but the experience was good. It was great and it was also fun.
Nimeona ni mwanzo mzuri kwamba tukiweka vijana wetu pamoja tuamini kwamba wanaweza. Sidhani ipo siku yote ambayo Kenya imewahi kuwapiku mataifa kama vile Qatar, Czech. Nafikiri ulikuwa ni ushindi wa kuwatia moyo sana.
The championship served as a springboard to the budding soccer talents expected to flourish in years to come.
We have a team, and this is a sign that the future of Kenya in sports is great.
Great to see that Peter Mayoyo and Fred Serenge, two familiar faces in Kenya's second school games, are taking charge of the national school teams. Moving on, the National Olympic Committee of Kenya has joined hands with Deloitte East Africa today, a partnership that will see them impact on the movement beyond the field of play. Now, the partnership will start with the upcoming 2024 Paralympic Games and run through to the 2032 Games in Brisbane.
The partnership between NOC and Deloitte is intended to professionalize their management and operation system in their strategic delivery as Kenya prepares to send a strong contingent to the Paris Olympic Games, as well as plan for future events which include 2026 Youth Olympics in Dakar, the Youth Commonwealth Games and the Commonwealth Games.
Faith Kipyegon. You cannot be serious.
NOC President Dr. Paul Tergat hailed the partnership, saying they will benefit a lot from the expatriates in their endeavor to commit to high levels of professionalism and accountability.
Our resolve and purpose have been to deliver our services specifically to our athletes and affiliates by enabling them to succeed.
He added that the partnership will also help NOC enrich their strategic goals and contribute to building a better world through sport. Deloitte East Africa CEO Ann Murata said the collaboration with NOC will further boost the confidence among the partners, stakeholders, and athletes to advance the future of sport in Kenya.
Our team will provide wide-ranging management and business consulting capabilities. So I look forward to the future of Olympic sport in our country and enhancing our national heritage and flying our flag high.
We'll be very strategic on what we do. We'll want to do something which is transformational. We want to do something which has an impact, and we want to do something which can leave a legacy.
King Orimwangi for Prime Edition Sports.
Did good news for the National Olympic Committee ahead of the Olympic Games in July. And to soccer, where the Kenya under-17 women's soccer team, the Junior Starlets, is set to leave the country on the 5th of June for their first leg, fourth round FIFA World Cup qualifier against Burundi in Ethiopia.
Advanced to the fourth and the final round of the FIFA Women Under-17 World Cup qualifiers when they beat Ethiopia 3-0 in the third round return match at the Ulinzi Complex grounds. They have now picked up their training in preparation for the two-legged match where they are determined to become the first Kenyan soccer team to qualify for the FIFA World Cup finals. The first leg will be hosted in Ethiopia on the 9th of June next month, with the return leg scheduled on the 16th of June here in Kenya. The aggregate win of the two-legged tie will secure a ticket to the 2024 FIFA Women Under-17 World Cup, which will be held in October in the Dominican Republic.
And now the Kenya Adaptive Para Boxing Federation will send a team to a para boxing tournament for the first time this year in Poland. The team of Ivan Sabsalom Odhiambo and Emmanuel Yahama Agavihi is scheduled to travel on the 26th of next month for the tournament, where they are determined to make their debut in style. Now, Ivan Odhiambo has been training at the Huruma CDF Social Hall under the guidance of Coach Stephen Makoha, who believes that the Kenyan boxers have what it takes to make a good impression in the tournament. Evans will face Poland's Lucas Drabiuk in the para boxing heavyweight category, while Emmanuel will face Paweł Kaleta in the middleweight. Out of the 10 para boxing fights on card, the president of the Kenya Adaptive Para Boxing Federation, Mary Otieno, say they were not able to make their debut in the Africa Para Boxing Championship in Ghana last month due to lack of funds, but is all grateful to the Ministry of Sport for their support this time around.
So vile vijana wale ambao wana intend na wale mapara ambao wanataka kuingia kwa hii para boxing ama boxing ya kawaida, mimi nasema karibuni wakuje wa train. Mwenye atakuwa na interest basi mimi nami niko tayari kumsaidia katika hali ya kumtrainisha aendelee kwa boxing.
Kuna competition, unapata pesa zingine hii weight yangu pale kwa weight lift unapata yani ni ngumu upate nafasi uende nje. You most of the time wanaangalia ile weight ndogo, na wewe weight yako tangu ngangana ufike hiyo ndogo ni ngumu. Sasa nikaona wacha nijaribu huko, nikafaulu tu hivyo tu.
Moving on, Mark Glenn will lead Team 48 to their title defense during the Rhino Charge this Saturday in Kajiado County. Now, this year's competition, which has attracted a field of 58 cars, has been boosted with a 15 million shillings sponsorship from Safaricom. The sponsorship will support Adil Kawaja, a top fundraiser for the event, who has participated in the Rhino Charge for over 20 years and who will be joined by 4 other team members. The Rhino Charge is an initiative dedicated towards environmental conservation, restoration and protection of endangered ecosystems under the Rhino Arc Kenya Charitable Trust. Last year, the event took place at the Nkoteia Community Conservancy, setting a remarkable fundraising record of 173 Kenya shillings.
And extremely happy here to see this long-term partnership between Safaricom and Rhino Arc and Rhino Charge being continued and actually being strengthened. As of today, we have already received 212 million shillings from Safaricom.
Our purpose is to transform lives, and it's our firm belief that it is our responsibility, along with other members of our community, to take care of our environment and to conserve it also for the future generations.
Now, a total of 173 million shillings was fundraised last year. Across the borders, Chelsea have signed Enzo Maresca as their new manager. The move comes after Mauricio Pochettino parted ways with Chelsea a week ago after they finished 6th in the Premier League. The Italian football manager, who guided Leicester City to the championship title, has signed a 5-year deal with Chelsea that will run until June 2029, with an option to extend until June 2030. Chelsea is expected to pay Leicester a compensation fee of around 10 million euros to buy him out of his current contract. And Boston Celtics have advanced to the NBA Finals after overcoming Indiana Pacers 105-102 in the Eastern Conference semi-final series to complete a clean sweep.
The Celtic Browns scored 29 points while Jason Tatum added 26 points, 13 rebounds and 8 assists as they won the series 4-0.
Off the bounce, hesitates, reassesses, spins and scores.
The Celtics will face the Western Conference winner, where the Dallas Mavericks hold a 3-0 lead over their opponents, the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Celtics have returned to the finals 2 years after losing to the Golden State Warriors and will feature in the NBA Finals for the 23rd time, hoping to bag their first NBA title since 2008. They have also had a great season with a 12-2 record result from beating the Miami Heat, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Pacers.
Well, and that report by Emmanuel Ndungu brings us to a close on today's edition of Sports. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Bernardo Kumu.
Sports News was brought to you by Mozart Bet.
You can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
It's 10 o'clock now. Thank you, Bernardo Kumu. Thank you, Brian Moraro, our sign language interpreter. And thanks to our back-end team for making this live broadcast possible. And I want to thank you for choosing the Prime Edition as your channel of choice for the news. My name is Mboya, and I'm wishing you a pleasant evening. Good night from Nairobi, Kenya.
Mizimu imesema atakayekuwa kiongozi ni yule pete itamchagua.
Bahari imechafuka. Mrithi wangu ni yule atakayeniletea vuo la kuoga.
Sasa na hili vuo wachana nalo, wakati wake umepita.
Pete hii ni ishara ya utawala.
Huu uongozi tusimwachie Jasiri.
Kwa nini uongozi usimwende Jasiri? Na wauliza nyinyi, Jasiri ana nini?
Kiva, hakuna atakayekusumbua.
Watch the Mozart Bet Cup as teams from both the top tier and low tier battle for the ultimate prize of representing the country in Africa's CAF Confederations Cup. Catch all the action live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, beginning with a round of 16 matches, the quarter-final, semi-final and the final. Mozart Bet Cup, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
I'd be very careful the way you address me, given that I literally have your life in my palm.
People lose hands and palms every day. Be careful you don't get yourself in that list.
People, why can't you give Solomon a chance to speak out? You talk like angry monkeys. And you, When are you ever going to learn to listen?
Okay. If you know you took my juice, it is not that expensive. It is only 10 bob.
Why is this Angela face laughing? Don't mind her, eh? Tell us the good news, Murume, eh? You know some of us need something to cheer us up.
I can't promise you anything right now.
Just think about what